Welcome back to our program, Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where we invite professionals in their fields to come along and educate and inspire the community to live more healthily, feel more balanced and truly live a lifestyle they love. Our first guest is Dr. Zara Chelik, our integrative health and wellness expert, and she's back with us today to talk about eliminating fatigue. So welcome, Zara.
Thank you.
Is fatigue actually feeling tired?
It's actually more than that. So usually with fatigue, tiredness is you can get enough sleep and it can resolve itself. With fatigue, however, that's not necessarily is the case. When someone experiences fatigue, it can indicate and give a message, convey a message about something deeper than tiredness going on in the body, something more significant going on in the body. It could be from a hormonal issue, such as hypothalamic pituitary axis dysfunction. It is like an orchestra, right? The hormones communicate like an orchestra. And if something's out of whack, the whole orchestra doesn't sound quite great. So it's similar to that, So the hormones communicate in a nice orchestra, if you like. And when there is a disruption in that, and that disruption is like the hypothalamic pituitary axis dysfunction, and there's also adrenals in there as well. So the really correct name for that is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction. And that can usually come along with chronic and long-term stress, for example. Especially if the stress has been there for a long time. It could be a trauma, again, a perceived trauma. And it can be initiated from there. And if it is not resolved, it can lead to more health issues. So we want to make sure and let our viewers know that when you are experiencing something more than tiredness, and doesn't matter how much sleep you're getting, you're still not feeling quite right, the energy is less or depleted, then consult your healthcare practitioner. Get help. Get help where you get to find out exactly the root cause of your fatigue. It could be that hormonal factor. It could be an iron deficiency. It could be more. It could be also that person is not enjoying life. Again, that whole perceived, feeling the state of depression.
Would that be like chronic fatigue, or what's termed chronic fatigue?
Yeah, so usually in our society, people refer to that as chronic fatigue. Absolutely, you're right. But the correct terminology for it is it's a hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis dysfunction. So it's a dysfunction in our communication of the hormones. So it can usually happen and come on with maybe a perceived trauma, or high stress levels can lead to the interruption of the flow of energy in the cells, within the cells, and in this case, in the endocrine system. So, stress is chronic and it hasn't been attended and it hasn't been resolved. It can lead to that chronic fatigue. So the individual can feel really that lack of energy, that fatigue, and they can usually stimulate themselves with stimulants such as sugar or caffeine or sugary drinks and so forth to really push themselves to get through the day or start their day. The only problem with that though, we can push our adrenals to a limit where they're not able to produce that cortisol and adrenaline to when we need it most, which is in a stressful, real threat situations. I find with the modern world, particularly with the language that we associate with our day-to-day tasks, can create that internal sort of language, and internal biochemistry can adapt to it, and the hormones can be interrupted that way, and the communication in the hormones can be altered, and then that can lead to a stress as well. So I find in the modern world, again, things are on the go, multiple screens going on. People put so much pressure on themselves, and there's also pressure it's expected externally as well. So people trying to really please and fit in and meet deadlines, right? So they can really push themselves. And to really get through the day, they can go to the stimulants and have the caffeine, have the sugar, to really get the tasks complete right. What happens though the whole physiology is giving feedback to us and we're ignoring it. So the biochemistry is not functioning well, and the physiology is giving feedback to let us know through fatigue that things are not doing well in the body. So rather than listening to the body's needs, we tend to go to those stimulants and to push ourselves to produce the deadline. But down the track, it can have more significant impact on our health and well-being and our energy levels. So I encourage people, once they know they fatigue and they're not, they don't have the energy they used to really stop and pay attention to the body and the symptoms, because symptoms is the way body communicating to us to let us know something isn't right. So once we know we are fatigued or we're not producing that outcome or the energy isn't the same, go deeper. What has changed? What can you do to support the body? Because it is telling you, it's giving you a message. What can you do to support that whole HPA axis dysfunction and reverse that as soon as you can, because it becomes a bigger problem in the future. So certain things could be such as, lifestyle factors play a big role. Remember I talked about the whole perceived stress or the language that we use and we create that internal stress. Could the individual work on that? Instead of saying, I have to, can we use more of the I get tos and have more gratitude around things that we do day to day?
So, Zara, if there was a couple of simple tips that the viewers could take with them today, then what would they be?
Yeah, sure. So, it's something simple as our lifestyle. One of them could be drinking enough water, enough hydration for our cells. So our cells are looking more like grapes, not like sultanas. So the other thing is starting our day. Instead of starting a day with a coffee or caffeine, could we instead invest in our health and well-being and make a nice smoothie that is not sugar-based? Can we go to bed earlier and have that enough sleep? Because sleep is really what helps our body to heal itself by itself and get that balance into the body again. So these are the certain things we can start implementing: our sleep and having a nice sleep ritual, having good time, a good bedtime ritual to have that quality sleep. Switching our electronics earlier, maybe like 2 hours, say, earlier than we go to bed, to take some time to, get into our body, connect with the body, and also to reward ourselves with something before we go to bed. Create that nice environment in your bedroom where it is inviting, it is calming, it is grounding. So that could be another thing that could really help our audience anyone's experiencing fatigue, to really invest and reverse or even just boost our energy levels in general. That sleep is crucial.
Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
And for more information on Dr. Zara Celik and eliminating fatigue, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. Dr. Zara will be back next time with us talking about stress management. Now we'll go to break and be back after the break with more amazing guests and topics. Welcome back, and next we have Kaveri Sequeira, certified health coach and author, and today she's talking about eating seasonally. So Kaveri, welcome back.
Thank you, Linda. Great to be back.
And seasonal eating today. So why do we eat seasonally? Why should we eat seasonally?
Yes, Linda. So we have different seasons in nature. And if you look at nature and how nature works and how animals in nature works, we will get a good indication of how they eat and how their eating habits change with the different seasons as well. Like if you look at winter, or rather autumn, you would see like squirrels moving around collecting all the nuts and anything that's available, because they're actually about to go into dormancy, because in winter there is nothing. They recognize that that's happening. So that's a good behavior of a species that we can look at. In spring, there's new There's new beginnings. There's a lot of leafy green vegetables after a really cold, hard winter, and there's a lot of leafy green vegetables, a lot of plants and animals. They're all moving around because they can tell that it's in time for new beginnings. In summer, there's a lot of summer berries and even more plants and vegetables, and it's great. In autumn, you have a lot of fruit and a lot of vegetables available. I'm talking about the African seasons now, and that's how we evolve. That's where we evolved, and that was representative of what nature provided at that time, and we ate like that as a species. But now we don't eat like that because for the simple fact, in the modern world, we have everything available to us at all times, and that means that we're not entirely sure what to eat when. It's more of a convenience thing. For example, apple season in Australia is in summer, but apples are available right through the year. Now, whilst that's really awesome and that's really convenient, nature would have enforced that we didn't have apples for at least 9 months of the year. But we're not eating seasonally, and that causes a imbalance in the way we live, and it adversely impacts our health. And that's why it's important to know about what those seasons are, how to eat seasonally, and how to align more to how things are in nature.
So, Kaveri, what happens if we don't eat seasonally then?
So we're basically not giving, for example, our pancreas work really hard to process sugar that we eat. Now, if you're not eating seasonally, we're basically not giving our pancreas a break from anything at all. So there are certain times in the year in nature, and I understand that there's different seasons in different countries in different parts of the world. My suggestion is try to eat what's locally available at that time and seasonally to your local area. Having said that, there are certain things that are like fruit actually that we recommend you take a break from. In a year, because in nature would have enforced it. Winter would have there would have been no fruit available. Naturally, we would have not eaten fruit. So the fact that we eat fruit right through the year is actually, even fruit, and even though it's good for you, it's not seasonal eating. And it's actually, when you give your body a break from even natural sugars, that helps your pancreas get a break, and that helps sort of, with your insulin levels and things like that. So there are different things that you can do to adapt, to what is local in your area. But that's just one example of, what happens when you don't do that. You're not giving your body a break to heal because you're eating the same food week in and week out. And plus, you're not getting enough variety in your food, and that causes a bit of problem as well, because as you're aware, there's 6 different types of hungers, and variety hunger is one of them. And eating seasonally helps you get that variety as well, and get your body to have all the nutrients from varied sources. So that's the benefits. And if you don't do that, then you're missing out.
And Kaveri, then what would be your best advice for our viewers to take away with them today?
Absolutely. So the best advice I'd have is, look at your local seasons, get familiar with what your local fruit and vegetables are in season at that time of the year. Eat that, because you don't want to be eating an apple that's been imported from California 6 months ago, because it's their apple season. You want to be eating apples when it's your apple season. So go and get curious about that and discover it. You might find a new fruit or vegetable that you've never eaten before, and you might actually like it. So that's my biggest top tip on this. My other tip is to give even things like fruit a break, because our body has 2 types of energy sources. One is sugar and one is fat. And sugar basically is something that you can use up immediately, and your body first goes to that. But if you took a break from that sugar, even natural sugars, you would go into a fat burning mode, which actually helps a lot with weight loss. I also recommend that you take a break from things like grain and dairy, because they cause a lot of intolerances and allergies. So if you are eating them, take a break from that. It'll actually help your body heal and get better.
Thanks so much, Kaveri.
Pleasure.
And for more information on Kaveri and seasonal eating, then please go to her webpage on our website healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and we'll go to break and see you back after the break with our next guest. Welcome back, and next we have Sean Connell, our lymphologist, who's back with us today to talk about fighting inflammation. So Sean, welcome back.
Thank you.
And inflammation, so how is inflammation caused in the first place?
Well, the inflammation actually comes from our bloodstream, because our bloodstream's 91% water. So when we break the laws mentally, nutritionally or physically, it's going to cause more inflammation in the body. So this is why stress is the biggest killer. So when we stress, it opens up the capillaries of the pores of the capillaries, and too much of the water comes out. So if there's too much there, sometimes the lymphatic system can't remove that inflammation. So we need to help the lymphatic system to actually remove that excess fluid out of the area around the cells. So that's where a lymphologist and lymphatic drainage massage can come in handy, because we will activate that lymphatic system using the only 4 ways to activate it and move that inflammation out of the area. Then the oxygen and nutrition can get back into that area, and the cells can start to regenerate and heal. And then the white blood cells, the immune system can work, and the body can regenerate and heal itself.
Right. And so when you say it and what it does to our body, what does it do to our body?
Technically, inflammation's causing lack of oxygen. So without oxygen, we don't live very long. So luckily, we have up to 100 trillion cells in our body. So there's inflammation around that area. They'll start to break down and degenerate. So the sooner we can remove that inflammation out of there, those cells can start to regenerate and work the way they're supposed to.
So what other contributors would you say there are towards inflammation within us that can deplete our oxygen supplies?
Okay. So mentally, stress is the biggest killer. Getting angry. If you have an argument with someone, you're tired after that burst, because you've created inflammation in your body and it's created lack of oxygen, and then you're tired. Eating and drinking the wrong things. So everything in moderation, so not too much coffee or alcohol or processed foods. Go natural as much as possible. Improper exercise will cause lactic acid in the body as well. All those things will cause inflammation, and if the lymphatic system's not removing that, it'll start to degenerate and cause the body to break down.
So when you talk about the generalisation, do you have a particular example of a situation where someone's been affected with the lymphatic system with the inflammation?
Yeah, well, inflammation's the cause of every problem out there. So without oxygen, we don't live very long. So oxygen is the key. And if there's inflammation in that part of the body, no oxygen's getting there. So it's going to degenerate, break down and die. So we need to remove that inflammation. The only way is through the lymphatic system, and that'll create more energy and more oxygen in that area. We have a lot of people who have lymphedema, which is just the body's just blowing up, just with inflammation. So we naturally just activate the lymphatic system and greatly reduce that, and then allow more oxygen to get back into that area, and then the body can start to regenerate and heal itself, and they lose a lot of weight, because over 50 kilos you can hold of just inflammation in the body.
Is that true for anybody who has that sort of swelling in their body, or are there just certain situations where it...
Yeah, if anything goes wrong in the body, all that's happening is there's inflammation in that area, and the lymphatic system's not working in that area. So once you activate the lymphatic system in that area, you're going to get more oxygen, more nutrition in there, and the cells in the body can start to regenerate and heal itself. So what's causing the lymphedema and the inflammation in the body is we have blood proteins in our bloodstream. And now their goal is to keep the water in the bloodstream. But as I said before, when we break the laws mentally, nutritionally or physically, these proteins come out much more than they should, and they pull a lot of that inflammation, the water, out of the bloodstream. And that's what's causing the inflammation in the body. So the only way to remove that inflammation is by activating the lymphatic system, removing those blood proteins back to the bloodstream, keeping the water in the bloodstream.
And then when you're saying those four systems, also the technology that you've mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that technology sort of widely available?
Not many people know about it. It's not that widely. There's some doctors around the world using it, but it's very unknown.
Well, and how would you say, what would your best advice for our viewers be around fighting inflammation?
Well, the number one thing we have to do is activate the lymphatic system. As we said before, there's 4 ways to activate the lymphatic system: deep breathing, bouncing, stroking, energy. You're required to get 30 minutes of aerobic exercise every day. Walking, do your deep breathing while you're walking, or if you're with someone, you're talking. So you're doing the breathing naturally by just talking. So don't be the one that's just not talking, talk as well. So obviously see professionals out there, they're the experts in the field, so they'll do that. But at home, you've got your deep breathing, bouncing, stroking, energy. You can do all these things at home to help activate that lymphatic system. But professionals out there have technology now that's way out of this world that really, really activates the lymphatic system, move a lot of that inflammation. You're going to drop a lot of weight, you're going to have more energy, your body's going to work the way it's supposed to, it's going to regenerate, you're going to get younger, you're going to feel really, really good.
Thank you so much for that, Sean. And for more information on Sean Connell and fighting inflammation, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au, and we'll say bye for now and see you next week.